Welcome to the deep dive. We take the source material you've provided, all the research, the articles, the internal notes, and we break it down into strategic insights you can actually use.
And today, we're really getting into a problem that I think almost everyone in a CISO or compliance role knows all too well.
Oh yeah, it's that feeling, right? You spend weeks, maybe months drafting this perfect, comprehensive security policy. You send it out,
Everyone clicks that little I agree button.
and then what happens? It just starts gathering digital dust. It sits there, and nobody looks at it again.
Digital dust is the perfect term for it. It really highlights this core problem where compliance becomes a one-time documentation exercise, a checkbox.
Just for the audit.
Exactly. But the sources we're looking at today argue that effective policy management has to be a continuous life cycle. It needs, really, three things: precision generation, then operationalization, and finally, validation through engagement.
And that's our mission for this deep dive.
Yeah.
To unpack this whole ecosystem of specialized AI-powered tools. So
Yeah.
we're talking about things like Generate Policy, PolicyQuest, SecureCheck, and see how they work together to manage that entire life cycle.
And we should definitely thank our sponsor, www.CISOmarketplace.com. As we talk about these sort of micro tools, you'll see they're very specific. The marketplace is where you find them, and they've given our listeners exclusive discount codes we'll be sharing from 15% all the way up to 30% off.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. The sources call it the cold start problem. Stage 1, generation.
Right.
The old way of doing this is it's painful, it's so slow, and it's incredibly expensive. You're hiring consultants and you're paying, what, $300 to over $1,000 for one policy.
Easily. And you're paying for their time, which, often just gets you a fairly generic template anyway.
But what's the alternative here?
Well, the first tool the sources point to is generatepolicy.com. It's built on Claude AI, and it's designed to just crush that bottleneck. We're talking about producing comprehensive, tailored policies in, seconds.
And the scope is pretty massive.
Well, it's huge. You get access to over 368 professionally crafted templates that are already aligned with all the major frameworks you'd expect.
So HIPAA, GDPR, SODI2, ISO, 27001.
NIST, PCI, DSS, CCTA, FedRAMP, all of them. Doing that manually, that kind of cross-referencing, that's where all the time and money used to go.
But I have to ask, if we're using AI for this, isn't there a risk of creating this sort of black box compliance? You get a policy fast and cheap, but you can't really explain why the AI chose certain language or if it even fits your company's actual controls.
That's a really critical question, and the sources address it directly. The key differentiator here isn't just the speed, it's the precision. This isn't an AI just scraping Wikipedia for terms. It's been specifically trained on regulatory nuance, on the kind of language auditors expect to see. The goal is to generate a policy that reflects your actual security posture, with the specific legal and technical phrasing that's going to pass muster.
So you're not just saving money, you're actually reducing your audit risk right from the get-go.
Exactly. You're baking precision in from the start.
Let's talk about the economics of this, because it's a fundamental shift. You're not paying consultant invoices anymore. It's a token model.
Right. A token is basically just a unit of AI processing power. So you're paying for the output, not for someone's billable hours. This model just completely changes the cost structure. A policy might cost, 80 or 90% less than it would have through a consultant.
And that scales. If you need one policy or 100, you have total control over the budget.
Complete control. It's flexible.
So if you're stuck with that cold start problem and you need to build out your compliance docs quickly, GeneratePolicy.com is available through our sponsor, www.CISOmarketplace.com. And for our listeners, first-time buyers can get a pretty substantial 30% off with the code CISO30.
That's a huge deal. It's a chance to really accelerate that first, often most painful phase of the life cycle.
All right, so now we have our perfectly drafted, precision-generated policy. But that brings us to the next stage, operationalization. A great document is useless if your IT team can't turn that blueprint into a daily work order.
That's the gap, isn't it? The moment it leaves the CISO's desk and hits the IT manager's inbox. The ecosystem tackles this in two main ways: implementation checklists for the IT teams.
And compliance questionnaires for the auditors.
Exactly. It's moving from here's what to do to here's how to prove you've done it.
And on GeneratePolicy.com, that's just an add-on feature, right? You generate the policy, and for a few extra tokens, you can instantly spit out a checklist or a questionnaire.
It's integrated right into that workflow, yeah. So it's like getting the assembly instructions included in the box.
Okay.
But the sources also highlight the need for specialization here, which brings up another tool called SecureCheck.
How is that different?
Well, while Generate Policy's add-on is for the new policy you just created, SecureCheck is a dedicated platform designed to take your existing policies from anywhere, maybe old ones from consultants, whatever, and turn them into tracked, actionable steps.
Ah, I see. So if Generate Policy's checklist is the instructions that come with new furniture,
Right.
SecureCheck is more like hiring a general contractor on retainer who can take any blueprint, even an old one, and turn it into a managed project.
That's a perfect analogy, and you see it in the pricing, too. Generate Policy is pay-per-use with tokens. SecureCheck is a flat subscription, $24 a month for unlimited checklists. That's key for companies with a big library of legacy documents.
And the real value there for a CISO isn't just the price, it's the audit efficiency. SecureCheck is built to map those tasks directly back to frameworks like SOC2, NIST, ISO 27001.
Which means your IT team is just doing their daily work, but they're generating compliance evidence automatically in the background. It just streamlines everything.
And these kinds of super focused tools are exactly what you find on the sponsor site, right?
Yes, this is the whole idea behind www.cisomarketplace.com. It aggregates these specialized micro tools that solve very specific pain points.
Okay, let's move to the third segment, which feels like the biggest trap of all, validation. The audit question is never just, do you have a policy? It's, do your people actually get it?
Yes. How do you get past that passive I agree signature? Because all that proves is that someone can click a button.
It's basically worthless as a real metric of risk.
Completely. And that's the problem that PolicyQuest.d is built to solve. It moves the whole process into what they call validation through engagement.
So it's not just reading anymore.
No. PolicyQuest uses AI to take your dense, boring policy documents and instantly turn them into interactive learning tools. It can generate multiple choice quizzes or even scavenger hunts that force employees to find answers within the policy itself.
And I can see why auditors would love that. The sources call it quantitative evidence of policy comprehension.
That's the key phrase. It's not subjective anymore. It's a measurable metric that proves your policy is actually alive in your company culture.
The difference is pretty stark. The old way is like signing a form saying you read the driver's handbook.
Right.
PolicyQuest is like actually having to take the written DMV test.
Yeah.
You have to prove you know the rules.
And that creates this incredible feedback loop. The analytics from the quizzes show you exactly which parts of a policy are consistently confusing people.
Ah, so if everyone's failing questions about, say, mobile device encryption,
You know you have a problem. Either the policy language is too confusing and needs to be simplified, or your training on that topic is falling short.
so you're not just testing, you're actively reducing risk by finding and closing those knowledge gaps before an incident happens.
That's the real strategic goal, right? Proactive risk reduction.
And because this is such a critical piece of the puzzle, our sponsor, www.cisomarketplace.com, is also offering listeners 20% off PolicyQuest.diy with the code CISO20.
A great tool for proving your competence to auditors.
Which brings us to our final piece, the continuous improvement cycle. A policy is written, but the world keeps changing. Regulations evolve. How does this ecosystem keep things from going stale?
The dynamism is really built in. There are three main feedback mechanisms. First, with Generate Policy, you get free regeneration. So if there's a regulatory update or user feedback suggests a change, you can regenerate the policy without paying again.
That's big. It removes the fear of making small tweaks.
It does. Second, PolicyQuest's AI is always analyzing the text itself. It's not just grading the quizzes, it's comparing your policy against current industry best practices. It'll flag language that's outdated or where you have gaps.
And the third mechanism,
Effortless merging. So after the AI suggests an update, or maybe the CISO wants to make a change based on those quiz analytics we talked about,
right?
PolicyQuest lets you merge those changes back into the master document with a single click. It stops policies from becoming obsolete just because updating them is a pain.
That closed loop is a real game changer. But what about for global companies? Compliance isn't just a rulebook problem, it's a language problem.
Absolutely. And that's another area where this automation is crucial. GeneratePolicy.com can instantly translate your policies into 12 languages for free: Spanish, French, German, Chinese, Japanese, you name it. And other tools in the ecosystem, like cyber templates, cover over 30 languages.
So you're cutting out the time and massive cost of using legal translation services for every little update in every country.
You're ensuring consistency across your entire global workforce. So if we step back and look at the whole workflow, It's a continuous loop.
Okay, lay it out for us.
You generate your policy with precision using a tool like Generate Policy. Then you convert it into action items and audit evidence with SecureCheck. Then you validate comprehension with PolicyQuest. And finally, you update it constantly using those AI-driven feedback loops.
It turns policy management from this awful periodic project into a real-time, self-improving system for managing risk.
Exactly. The policies get smarter based on how people actually use and understand them.
This whole integrated ecosystem of AI micro tools really does seem to simplify what has always been an incredibly complex job. If you want to transform your own policy lifecycle, remember that you can find these specialized tools and their discount codes exclusively on our sponsor site, www.cisomarketplace.com.
That's CISO 30 for 30% off Generate Policy.
And CISO 20 for 20% off PolicyQuest, and another tool, cyberpolicy.shop.
So we've talked a lot about getting rid of digital dust, but let me leave you with one final thought on what policy effectiveness really is.
Go for it.
The old way of thinking, the static document way, is all about asking, are we compliant on paper?
Checking the box.
Right. But this new AI-driven approach forces us to ask a much more important, much more strategic question. Are we compliant in practice? Because the real test of a security policy isn't whether it looks good to an auditor in a meeting. It's whether it drives the right behavior from your employees when a real incident is happening.
That's the difference between just checking boxes and actually reducing risk. A powerful thought to end on. Thanks for tuning into this deep dive. We'll see you next time.